when we talk about discarded containers, there will be undulations on the corrugated sheets. Some corrugated sheets would be torn.
Correct.
So you have to identify as per your elevation, you have to identify as per your...
Come to the serial designer. Today is going to be a very interesting conversation on container architecture. He is being recognized in this field for over a few years. He is architect Ar.Akash Dudhe of SAGI Architects. He has his own multidisciplinary design studio and has an experience of over 9 years. Welcoming him today to share insights on the topic. Also, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Please put in your comments in the comment section as to what other interesting topics you all want me to cover. I'm glad to welcome architect Ar.Akash Dudhe of SAGI Architects. And you've been in the industry for almost 12 years now. And how does it feel to be here today?
Hi, thank you Devanshi. Thank you for having me here. Rather, I would say actually thank you for pushing me to do this. So it feels really nice.
Yes.
And looking forward to kind of give whatever best I can
Yes.
to the...
because our viewers are ultimately students and aspiring young designers. So, they are always in search of answers. They are always in search of new techniques, new styles. So, I think today you'll be able to help them. Also, coming to our topic for today. So, you specialize... So, you have various projects in your portfolio. But one specialization, one style which you have is container architecture, which is the topic of our conversation today. So, could you run through the basics of container architecture?
Yeah, so basically container architecture is, I would call it like a alternate way of building things, as you need to have a special inclination towards it. The requirements are different, the brief is different, the timelines are different. So, and I would say that not every project that you think of can fit into this category.
So, coming to the basics of container architecture, जो container होता है, पहले तो वो किस मटेरियल का होता है, कहाँ से प्रोक्योर करते हैं उसको. लोग बोलते हैं कंटेनर आर्किटेक्चर, this is made out of container architecture, but what is the base concept of it?
So basically containers are these shipping containers.
Okay.
जो transport cargos में use हो रहे हैं. After a time, after they've done multiple to's and fro's, then they are discarded. Okay. They are not then fit for again using. So इसको फिर stack किया जाता है ports पे, and these discarded boxes are just lying over on the port. So that's how we can bring these boxes to real life, and we can give them like a living
revamp to them.
Yeah.
So ultimately that will of course reduce the even sustainability के मामले में that works.
Correct.
Because ultimately वो recycle होते हैं, repurpose होते हैं, थोड़ा उनका adaptive reuse होता है. तो ultimately, so is that your ethos or just the architecture part of it?
No, actually both. So what we believe in is as long as we can revamp things, as long as we can reuse them, repurpose them, right? It's better for our nature, our earth, the place that we are in. So that's the whole idea, that making use of whatever is available.
So actually that's a very good ethos for the for your practice as well.
Yeah.
But what about it's not easy to procure these containers, right? So how did you come across this kind of architecture? तो मतलब ऐसे मुझे भी तो पता भी नहीं था कि कंटेनर्स कहाँ मिलते, कैसे मिलते. कंटेनर आर्किटेक्चर आई हैव हर्ड इन वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज, बट इंडिया में इतना रेलेवेंट है नहीं. तो where did you come across it? How did this story start?
So basically, I remember incidents where we had a client who approached us with a requirement of doing like a restaurant. But the thing was, the land that he had was on lease. And he wanted to do some makeshift arrangement where it could just be built in less time, less money, and he could just start it over. So the first thought was, we can't build that in civil because it'll take time. The lifespan of the building is too long, so that's not really required when it comes to lease lands. And the brief didn't actually support that. So we started our research, and then we thought maybe metal could be one of the good options, because prefab steel, it could just be brought at site, do whatever you want as a form, and then it has a good scrap value also.
Correct.
So from there, again, after researching, we thought, why not containers? And then we started researching about, and then we literally came to know that there are many projects outside India made in shipping containers.
Okay.
So
but India में इतना relevant तब था नहीं. अभी भी rather a very few
projects.
So because you've researched so much on that, you've also done a project on that. You are one of the very few. Your firm is one of the very few people who are actually doing this.
Correct. Yeah.
So when I type on Google, I think you must be coming much higher on the search, because there are very few people who are doing this.
Yeah.
So how does it get to you? Like, do you get a lot of projects? Are people actually doing this, inquiring about it? Because I'm sure there's a lack of awareness. So where do you get these clients from?
So actually, once we completed 2-3 projects, that's how people started knowing us, that we do this alternate method of construction also. And again, then there's word of mouth, and we are really lucky to have these projects in the flow.
But this ultimately gave you a recognition also, this kind of style.
Yeah.
Because very few people are doing it, so you got that amount of recognition which was required. So, but what about, see, coming to the very basic, how does a typical design process work for this kind of a style?
Okay, so for the start, let me tell you the whole process. The shipping containers, basically, these comes into 2 sizes.
Okay.
There's a 20-feet container and there is a 40-feet container. Yeah. So depending on what your requirement is, then we select what size of container would be apt to design this space. Another most important thing is a site recce. Many a times the restriction is the lesser width road, or maybe existing trees there. So it's very difficult to kind of maneuver containers to the exact location where you are wanting it to place them. So these are few things where you need to think as a start, and then the process goes.
So these containers are, say for example, अभी मुंबई में तो थोड़ा गर्मी ज़्यादा है, इंडिया में क्लाइमेट ट्रॉपिकल है, तो व्हाट अबाउट द क्लाइमेट factor of it, because metal is it's heated up.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
So we also call them heat boxes only.
Okay.
Because it does not support in the weather that we are in.
Hence it's a temporary.
Yes. इसलिए using containers only where it is a temporary arrangement, it works the best. And of course you need to insulate them.
Okay.
To make it livable. Also many other factors where you could opt to use shipping containers or no. Then there are many factors from where you can derive. So basically one being the mobility.
Okay.
It actually allows you to relocate the whole setup as and when needed. Then there is offsite construction. So civil, you can't do offsite constructions, you have to be at site. Here at least you can have these container boxes fabricated the whole setup done in the factories, get them at site, just install them.
So container architecture में ऐसा notion है कि जो आप container architecture है तो आपको खाली लाके साइट पे खड़ा करना होता है, बट आई एम श्योर देयर मस्ट बी साइट, जैसे आपने बोला साइट रिकी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो हाउ डू यू लाइक फिक्स that container on site?
Yeah, so there
prefabricated.
Yeah, so there is some pre-arrangements needed. It's not that there is no civil work it's not something where there is no civil work needed. So basically the footings are needed. So you just need pods coming till the ground, and the container basically rests on the four corners, and that's what you need. So you don't really need big civil work involved, but yes, some part you need.
So some part, basically the base has to be done on site.
Correct.
बाकी आप जो पूरा कंटेनर है वो आप आपके साइट पे प्रीफैब करके साइट पे असेंबल कर सकते हो.
Absolutely.
So that's how this works. So हमारा जैसे IKEA का मॉड्यूलर फर्नीचर है, somewhat like that. I mean,
yes,
to make it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about, जैसे आपने बोला इंसुलेशन है, क्लाइमेट कंट्रोल है, वेंटिलेशन है, तो वो विंडोज डोर्स वो भी सब मेटल से बनता है कि यू कैन मेक इट आउट ऑफ वुड? हाउ डू यू मेक दैट?
So we actually make it in metal only. So what we do is the first thing that has to be done after you get the brief is to design what you are really imagining. When I say in terms of design, you have to be clear what openings are you looking at, what spans are you wanting to open, what columnless spans you are wanting to achieve, and depending on that, we actually take these drawings to the port to actually select the containers then. So selection of containers is one big process where, because see, when we talk about discarded containers, there will be undulations on the corrugated sheets. Some corrugated sheets would be torn.
Correct.
So you have to identify as per your elevation, you have to identify as per your design which box would be apt and fitting into your design.
So in layman term, at least for me, like I don't know, say for example उधर कोई undulation है या कोई scratch है या चीज टूट गई तो उधर आप डोर बना लोगे.
Exactly.
या विंडो बना लोगे.
Correct.
So that's how you have to select the container first.
Yes.
Okay, fair.
So किसी का आपको टॉप काम में आ जाएगा, किसी का आपको साइड्स काम में आ जाएगा. So depending on that you have to select
basically you select which side you want, which side. Okay, so entire cargo तो आप ऐसे use नहीं कर सकते.
Correct.
And then you make your, as per your design, you make your doors, your windows or ventilation.
Yeah.
Fair. And so you all must be finishing also with some other material, polishing it again.
Yeah, so you paint them basically with the weatherproof paints. And from inside you need to insulate them. So for insulation you'll have to do the framework, and then you can clad it with any material that you want. So may it be gypsum sheets, may it be fiber cement boards, and you can just paint them, wallpaper them, and they would actually look like what you see this space as.
Wow. So that's what Western countries में, at least that as far as my knowledge goes, वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज मैंने देखे हैं, आर्ट स्टूडियोज बनाते हैं, स्कूल्स, डॉर्मेटरीज, घर बनाते हैं, बट योर वी डोंट हैव दैट थिंग. सो इधर हम व्हाट आर द स्पेसेस वी बिल्ड हियर आउट ऑफ कंटेनर्स?
So for us, I would say we have done a vocational training institute also in containers. That's what we did for an NGO called Pratham Education Foundation.
Okay.
So it was like a mini campus. It was like a mini school that we built for them in Aurangabad. And the best part was, again, it was on a lease land, and we could, the client could shift that whole setup after 2-3 years and switch it to some another remote areas where they are wanting to give vocational services.
That's actually a very good basically education है. तो अभी इधर 5 साल का है, लीज इधर है, तो then we'll shift somewhere else where we'll buy a new land. So actually that pretty much sets with the idea. Also I've seen a lot of site offices which are built in container, because uska so why do site offices prefer to be built in metal?
So yeah, again In fact, we are working on 2 sales offices
Okay.
that we are going to be doing for 2 builders here in Bandra and one in Juhu. Again, the requirement was, see, it's a temporary structure and it does not consume FSI. You don't need permissions for it, right? So it can be shown as temporary structures.
Okay.
And again, mobility is one of the factors, and offsite construction. So when the construction of the building is also in the process, you could parallelly put your boxes wherever you want to, and then start your sales office, site office, whatever you want.
So for builders, this works because उसका कोई FSI होता नहीं है ना.
Correct. Yeah.
कंटेनर का कोई FSI नहीं है.
हाँ, FSI का ज़रूरत नहीं है because it's a temporary structure.
Because it's a temporary structure. And what about, okay, FSI नहीं है, but कुछ legal regulations होंगे, permissions also, local authorities, you don't really need to get it approved on paper. Yeah. So basically, अगर आपका land है, आपकी जगह है, you can build whatever you, however you want, and then you can discard it.
Correct.
So I think that is one good factor when it comes to this architecture, कि वो आप temporary structure की तरह आपको जो use करो, जब आपको चाहिए तब चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए तो आप निकाल सकते हो.
Correct.
But अब जब निकाला, so then what about the sustainability aspect of it? क्योंकि cladding होगा.
हाँ, पर see, the whole body is still saleable, right? And it is movable. So you can sell that as a metal scrap, and also you can move them and revamp or purpose them into some different space and again reuse it. So I would like to give you one of the examples of it. One of the restaurants that we did pre-COVID, this was Kailash Parbat in Khopoli.
Okay.
And post-COVID, the restaurant had to shut down. So these guys revamped this space into a nursery, and right now it is, it is working as a nursery now.
Oh.
So that's how you can...
So you can adapt, reuse it into a restaurant, kabhi ye, kabhi wo. Plus change in locations also.
Correct.
Nice. So again, coming back to the sustainability aspect of it, does it really... is it really cost effective कि conventional with costing पे ही आजू-बाजू पड़ता है?
So I would say it is not cost effective, but there are several factors to it which kind of in the long run gives you that comfort of using them into your own domain as one of the types of construction. The reason being since it is mobile, again so mobility is one of the biggest factors that we consider. Offsite construction, imagine you were to build something in a very remote area for yourself, but then you can't go supervise things, right? So it's better that something that you can see is getting built in front of you in some factory where you could be very assured about the quality and what you are imagining this space to be. And once it is ready, then it is just positioned at site. So that's how this comes into picture.
That's how feasible it is, and plus you can manage it.
Correct.
Very easy to manage. So is it such that it reduces carbon footprint? Like, are there articles on that? Have you researched about it?
No, I don't think it will reduce the carbon footprint. But yeah, it's
definitely not increase.
Exactly, 100%.
Reduce तो नहीं करेगा, but increase तो 100% नहीं करेगा, because you are using scrap materials.
Correct. And as it is, since it was lying at the port, you are bringing and making them to life. So
cost में भी इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता है.
So long run, I would say it just balances out. But initially, you feel that you're paying more because you want to insulate them. Right, and that's how the costing goes up.
But eventually it balances.
Yeah, eventually.
उसके pros ज़्यादा है.
Correct.
What about the cons?
So when it comes to the cons, one of the biggest hurdle that I found in this typology is when you reaching at site. So the site recce being the most important part. I remember one of the projects that we were working. We were proposing a rural school in shipping containers. But the problem was during the site Reiki. So initially, again, once you propose, then you design it, right? On the boards, you are already clear about it because you are wanting to present it, and then you are seeing if it could fit in the requirements and stuff. So during our first site visit, we kind of realized that even a 20 feet container would not be able to reach site because of the road curves and the undulations that it had. And that's how we had to rethink on using this method of construction. So we had to switch to a typically metal, which is a prefabricated building, rather than using the shipping container. So that is one of the biggest cons that I feel when it comes to
the product will not be able to reach the site.
Exactly.
The container will not be able to reach the site.
So this research has to be done pre-hand. Existing trees हो गए, approach कैसा है, can the cranes go till there? So that's what is really important when it comes to containers.
So you have a team of people who are working under you. So are there any specific teams? Are there any specific students who are who have approached you for this kind of architecture, or yet students are not aware of it?
No. So basically, whenever people see our projects, our container projects, they are very up for it. They are very excited about it. But then understanding metal, understanding the containers in detail is it takes time. It takes research. It takes that thought process, how to deal with them.
But like as I already told you, students hai jaise. Now if they want to come and they want to come to your firm, they want to work, they are into the idea of container architecture. So what skills are there? Any skills which are required to get into this, or passion is enough?
I feel only passion is enough. Yeah. Rather what we see while someone wants to be the part of the team, we feel that he or she should be liking or should be having the same approach that our projects show. Rather than we seeing in them what we want, it's the other way around is what I feel.
So even when it comes to clients, when I think you just mentioned about boards and everything, you have to present it to your clients. You have to do you have to convince them to take up this kind of architecture?
Yeah, at some point, yes, because not everyone is aware about it. Not everyone is wanting to adopt it because it's a different way of expressing architecture. So, and I would say you have to have that liking of a design statement that you would want to build.
But metal in general also is not very prevalent in India.
Yeah.
Metal, people refrain because we are so used to this RCC column beam system.
Correct.
That we have just... Have you noticed this, like being a practitioner yourself? And what about metal in... So I think column beams to hamare isme bhi honge. But they'll be made out of metal.
They are made out of metal.
How is that technically wise?
Again, it's a simple grid plan. You have 4 columns at the 4 edges.
Okay.
The beams which join the 4 columns, and the corrugated sheets which acts as a wall of the containers. They also take load to some extent. So while you're cutting the sheets, you have to know that what span are you wanting. Depending on that, you need to add 1-2 vertical members to them.
Okay. So that's how typical the plan works.
Yeah.
So again, coming back to boards, जब आप client को present करते हो, so do you have to show this kind of technical data to them? How does the pitching process work? I'm just trying to figure this out, because convincing is one part of it, but showing the design, and you have your team, they also must be on it to make the designs and stuff. So how does this coordination work? Because exactly, not many people are aware of this kind of style of architecture. So how does this work?
So I would say the journey is similar to the rest of the projects. But all the references, the mood boards, we make little small models also.
Okay.
To show them what it would look like. We explain them each and every element of the container for them to understand how is that going to be working. I feel Jenga is one of the best way to because each Jenga block, it actually resembles one container to us.
Okay.
And that's how we do the permutation combinations while we are working on the boards.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Using Jenga as a model,
exactly.
Experimental.
Yeah.
So I think this process also will be very, this brainstorming session also would be very good in a studio.
Yes.
Nice. So how do you see this kind of style of architecture growing? Like, how do you make sure people know about it?
So I feel since it has this sustainable factor also to it, and many people are wanting to build their vacation homes. The young couples also nowadays, everyone feels that they should have some space outside the city limits where they can go over the weekends. So I think container architecture is one of the best methods where, so as small as a 20 feet container, and as big as whatever you want it to be. So it's one of the ways where you can build your own homes. And
so in Western countries, as we discussed, लोग studios वगैरह भी बनाते हैं, studio apartments है, but इधर slowly but steadily it will grow. That's what scope तो है.
बिल्कुल 100% scope है.
So how do you make sure that people are aware of this kind of style?
So we generally see the brief and we make sure that as a first cut, इसको भी एक बार pitch कर ही देते हैं.
Okay.
And then see if it fits the slots.
It fits. Otherwise you have always your...
Exactly.
Because आप practice तो करते ही हो.
Correct.
What about the student perspective? Like, because many students are taking up this kind of unusual theses.
Yeah, so since I am also into academics, I to push students, I motivate them that that metal as the main material or the main core is one of the best materials they could have. So prefab buildings, containers. We had a thesis on one of the students did a thesis on a vertical city in containers. So many projects that you can think of when it comes to shipping containers. And it's not only about you can build ground. You can go multiple stories also.
So yet you haven't done a project which goes multiple.
We've reached till 2-3 floors.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can go higher as well.
Yeah, there are projects going up to 3, 4, 5 levels also.
So again, coming back to students, they have these theses which they do in their final year, architecture ho ya interior. So they have this process wherein the end semester they give a thesis. Thesis is one project which is their own project selection, their own research. So I think container architecture or this style of architecture using metal, again, unusual because not many people are doing it.
Correct.
So I think they can take this up into their own, their own niche. And who would be a better mentor than, you. So, and plus you're ready to push them also. So these drawings, what the container architecture drawings, are they different from the conventional drawings which students do, which offices do?
They're not very different, but there is a process. So what we generally do is we make container modules in the plan, and then usi ke niche we do the detail plan, so that the client also understands and we also understand एक container में कितना brief fit होगा. And after the plans are done, then immediately we start with our single line elevations, because as I told you, site रेकी करते वक्त we need to understand किस कंटेनर में कहाँ पे हमें पंक्चर चाहिए होगा, उस हिसाब से वी नीड टू सिलेक्ट आवर कंटेनर्स. So single line elevations for us, all sites, they are the most important drawings before selecting the containers. And then uske baad it's a general process of developing the 3Ds and getting the mood boards correct, external mood board, internal mood board. External mood board में अगर आपको cladding करना है तो you decide on the cladding material. Interior mood board में if you want to, so say for example if you are doing a staff area, then you need not clad it. It can just be like a corrugated sheets from inside also. So not even staff area, but if your theme is an industrial theme that you don't really need to clad it internally, then you can leave it as corrugated sheets also.
ठीक है. Thank you so much for sharing these insights with us, and I'm sure the viewers have got their much needed knowledge about container architecture, which is again a very unusual aspect of architecture. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Devanshi. I also literally enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you.
Thank you.